Hi, this is Jack and Art here. We're going to start to talk about how we distress our wood siding. We're going to talk about nail holes, lifting boards, and a few other small topics. I'm wearing the red shirt so you can tell, and he's wearing the blue shirt. You'll see the hands come in and out, that way you can tell. We talked in the last bit, if you did happen to tune into the last bit, about why we do this distressing of the wood. But we're going to not deal with why we do it, we're going to deal how we do it. I like to do it when it's flat. I'll distress my wood long before I put my bracing on it. That way I'm working on a nice flat surface. I don't have to worry about pressing too hard and splitting the wood and things like that. The first thing I like to do is I like to do a graining of the wood, and that all depends upon how weathered I want my wall to be. If I don't want too much, I'll use a light grain or no grain at all. If I want a nice dark grain, I'm going to take my file card, which I showed before in the tools, and I'm just going to scrape it along with the clapboards. And it takes about 2 passes and from one end to the other. And it's kind of hard to see here, but you might be able to see it. There's a little bit of grain in there. You'll zoom right in, we'll take a look. And when we do our weathering and our ink and alcohol stuff, that grain is going to pop right out. So after we've done our graining, we're going to put our nail holes in. And I use a Ponce wheel. This one happens to be from Vintage Reproductions. There's a bunch out there. You have to be careful with these because if you press too hard, this doesn't really give you a round hole, it gives you a square hole. So you want to press just hard enough to get a nice hole. I want to set back probably about 1/16 of an inch from my edge, and I'm going to run one quick line down it and be done with it. That's going to give me a set of nail holes right in the edge, and it's a nice square line because of my corner. My next line I happen to use on my system. I use a scale that's just a little over 2 foot square, 2 foot wide in HO, so I can just line that up with my corner, and I'm going to run my line again. That gives me, if you can see that, 2 nail hole sets of lines right parallel. My next one, all I have to do is line it up with my last line and run another one. And now that gives me 3 nail sets. And I do it all the way across the board. And don't forget, you want to put the last one on the corner. That gives me my nail holes all the way across. Now Art has a little different way of doing the nail holes. And I'll let him show you that right now.
Okay, this is me. You can tell, blue shirt. Basically what Jack did is what I think pretty much all of us do, and we don't take a real different approach to this. I have to tell you, I don't distress these boards like he did at this point. What I would tend to do is prime the walls with the flat gray that we traditionally use, the Walmart brand, and after introducing the final coat of paint, I will use something similar to this. This is really a great idea though, Jack, to scrape away the final coat, revealing some of the gray beneath it. And in that way, you're introducing the same look of a distressed board because you're revealing the 2 coats of paint that are both thinned out and working with each other. There are some examples of that here where the upper coat was thinned out to reveal the lower coat beneath it. As far as putting nail holes in, the Pounce tool is invaluable. But a friend of mine, Mike Tylick, showed me a little way of doing this that's kind of clever. And what Mike did is he took his clapboard, kept it squarely on a piece of lined paper, and I'm not going to do this right in front of you right now, but the idea was to use the same straight edge method, but simply have the straight edge traverse from one side of the line to the other side of the line. Now you can make them 1 line apart, 2 lines apart, even 3 lines apart, depending upon the scale that you're dealing with. And there's no measuring necessary. As long as you're over the line here and over the line there, you'd run the Pounce wheel just as Jack had shown you, and you'd be able to get automatic perfect spacing with not a worry in the world about having them come out crooked, because as long as everything remains square on the piece of paper, your nail hole lines will be true.
I have one more little comment about the Ponce wheel. The Ponce wheel is a little short wheel that has it's like a star wheel, and when you lay it down and run it along, you want a thin straight edge, not too thick, because when you put the Ponce wheel against it, it's going to ride against this edge which has a little axle on it. If that hits, sometimes it wanders and doesn't make your line straight. So you want to find and make sure that you have a straight edge that's thin enough not to carry up onto the edge of the arm of the punch wheel. The next step we're going to do in our distressing of the wood is we're going to end some ends of boards. And the boards would have ended on one of your studs on your wall, and that's where your nail holes would be. And just by taking a sharp knife and cutting just one of the boards in random patterns around, you're looking for the long runs on the board, under the windows, above the windows. Usually when a window breaks it up, they use the full sheet. But just scribe them in, and later on when we weather it, those are going to jump right out. Our other option here is by lifting a board. By cutting the end grain, what I like to do is start my knife at a very steep angle and kind of run it along and get it started. Once I get it started, I keep going deeper and deeper each time, lightly, until I get it to where I need it, and then I'll just pry it up a little bit, and that'll give me my lifted board right here on the edge, right on the edge. You can do this with a X-Acto knife. I've seen people do it with a small utility knife with a snap blade, keeps it nice and sharp, and a single edge razor blade. Okay, after we've lifted a couple of the boards, you want to go back and put a few nail holes in the opposite side of the board. If it splits a little bit, that's not a problem. This is just to add a couple of nail holes later on where they might not be with the punch wheel. The only other thing, when you're careful when you're lifting your boards, you want to remember where your signs are going to be on your building. You don't want too many of those boards lifted under your sign, because then your sign won't lay flat. So now we've grained the board, we've lifted it, and nail holes. Our next step would be we want to now flip the board over, and we're going to do our interior bracing on our walls. So our next step after that will be painting and staining our walls.